Hello there. Welcome to another edition of the Vapors Den. Thank you so very much for tuning in. My name is Aaron. I'll be your host for a little while. Today's production is primarily being spawned off of an event that took place this morning in regards to vape technology and vape gear. I was over at a friend's. We both do our deal at the vape shop, made friendship there. And due to that affiliation, it spawns the friendship. And I was over there at his house this morning. And in accordance to what I do and how I practice my own levels of vape safety here in my home, not so much safety, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're not talking like what you need to do with this to be safe. It could minorly lead to that, but we're going to get to something, not definitely discussing your personal safety and health in regards, separate from the other PSAs here on YouTube that I've done. Today's conversation is being spawned, again, being at a friend's house earlier today. He's a vapor, hooked up with him at the vape shop, pretty good friends. His vape technology is being stowed outside in his garage, and he's keeping it all on a workbench. Very untidy, unorganized. Tanks laying on their sides, RDA'S on their sides, some things even being rested atop their 510 threads, which anyone who vapes and cares about their equipment will know that a resting on top of a 510 threaded device takes the chance of compromising the 510 center pin that is oh so important to stay as virgin as possible and to stay in well and good and intact. And it just kind of blew me away going, yeah, I even thought, do you even work at this shop, bro? I mean, do you even vape, bro? I mean, it was just kind of like, but today's conversation is being spawned because what really gave birth to this thing was during his fumbling and fiddling on his workbench, made of wood, about 4 feet up off of a pure concrete floor, his Atlantis V1, an older tank, you might not care about it, through his fumbling he hit something and it bumped into that, and it's rolling off the wood workbench right onto the concrete floor. And I'm thinking, oh my God. It didn't shatter glass, but it did hit the drip tip, and it dented in, and it definitely took the finish off. That kind of the aluminum finish, that stainless finish, that matte finish that Aspire Atlantises are classic to having. In the area where it hit the concrete floor, that's gone. It looked like somebody just got sandpaper and went. Pfft. So I was thinking, as it was falling, legitimately, seriously, as the damn thing is falling to the frickin' floor, I thought, and even before it hit the floor, might be a good thing to talk about on a vape-related review video or recommendation video or suggestion video. So that's why we're here today. And as the title of the YouTube video, maybe it's time to go nuts or something like that. I'm not talking the type of nuts where, you get naked and grab a bottle of Jack and run outside. We're not talking about that type of nuts. Nor are we talking about the type of nuts that make people around you think it's time to call the people in the white coats and it's time for you to go into a bouncy room. We're not talking about that kind of nuts. We're talking about something so dirt cheap, something so simple, very straightforward. Nothing needs to go into figuring out how to make it work with your vape technology other than maybe having a mild grasp upon how gravity works. But if you have that and all you can afford is dirt cheapness, I have a very viable, good option that I personally use for my vape gear here at home in an area where I've nicknamed the Vapor's Corner. You'll see that a little bit later. I am talking about a cheap Ace Hardware lug nut. 55 cents retail. Sometimes they have these on sale for as low as 25 cents each. Very rugged, very durable, almost indestructible, very industrial, but more importantly, very balanceable. And I will give you a hint actually a full-blown look about what I mean by balanceable. We're going to start a process right here that I like to call play-by-play. It's a series of slides. It won't take too long, but as per what happened earlier today, it spawned this video. It spawned some thought, and before that Atlantis V1 hit the floor, I was thinking, I'm going to make a video on this. So we're going to start the play-by-play right now. I'll see you on the other side, and you'll figure out what this lug nut in the play-by-play is all about and why I'm recommending it. See you on the other side. And there we are on the other side of the play-by-play. Now, due to watching that, you see the relevancy and you see why this video is so titled. Maybe it's time to go nuts. Maybe it's time to nut up a bit. Just again, a simple 55-cent retail at Ace Hardware. You can find them at Lowe's. You can find them at Home Depot. You can find them in Walmart in the automotive section. You can go online, Napa Auto Parts, Cragen Auto Parts as they call it here on the West Coast. It's O'Reilly's on the East Coast. You can go to AutoZone.com and that kind of stuff, even eBay, Amazon, and just put lug nut in the freaking search engine, and voila, you probably find them for dirt cheap, especially if you buy in bulk. I started this option as far as taking care of my vape equipment, as you saw in the play-by-play. I started this about 10, 11 months back when I was, I've only been doing this a year and 2 months, vaping is concerned. And I started to accumulate due to the blessings from good people out there who I'm associated with on my G+ social media group called Vaporosity. Met some real good kindred kind folk on there, and they vape forwarded me almost en masse. Not a ton of gear, but enough gear to be a good startup endeavor. And I was resting things on their 510s as things come in, you run out of room or you don't properly know how to store. And you're not guilty of anything for just not knowing. I mean, when you're new at something, you don't know all the parameters. And so I was at a hardware store and I was vaping on an old small well DPV 65 with a cloned Atlantis V2 tank on there, and I was resting it during its downtime on its 510s, and it would, you bump a dresser, it knocks over. You walk across the floor, just right, boom, it knocks over. And I was thinking, So in the hardware section, I found the lug nuts, and I took one out, and I put it on top of the counter, on top of the surface, and I took my cloned Atlantis V2 off and put it on there, and I don't know what kind of brainchild I had. I don't know what motivated me to go into that aisle. I don't know what motivated me for have my hand go into a bulk section thing of lug nuts and pull one out. And I don't know exactly what got me into testing that, but I'm sure glad I did. And I said, we're doing this. I think I bought 10 lug nuts right there just to have enough for the 4 or 5 devices I had at the time that required balancing, I knew more would come, so I bought them I bought excess, and now all 10 are being used. But I just thought I would recommend to people out there who are starting up in vaping, who might be acquiring some technology, especially RDA'S, RTA'S, and tanks, Pro Tank 2s, Pro Tank 3s, Mega tanks, Atlantis V1s, Atlantis V2s, Kanger tanks, Smock tanks, Hercules tanks, whatever you might be acquiring either by your own wallet or being vaped forward by others. If you start running out of viable options to store your equipment safely and properly, you might want to look into buying lug nuts. I know this guy sitting on YouTube talking vape-related video, talking lug nuts. Yes, I am, and it's a viable, cheap option. It looks cool, and as you saw in the play-by-play, I showed off my Vapors Corner to you, where my RDA'S are, where my tanks are. Looks very rugged, durable, forever lasting, but more importantly, it keeps your stuff safe. It keeps your stuff from getting damaged, but more important, it keeps those precious 510 center pins virgin as we can keep them, because that's the heartbeat right there. You damage a 510 center pin on a device, you're taking the chance that your tank or your RDA or RTA is not going to fire. Serious as a heart attack on that. Might not fire if those center pins get too damaged. Sweaty coffee time, but on that note, I'll start wrapping this bad boy up and start thinking about vaping on out of here. But give it a thought. This video isn't a blueprint of what you absolutely must do. I mean, there's some good viable options out there. I know people who have tons of vape gear, and what they'll do is they'll buy at like Lowe's or Home Depot, they'll buy these big blocks of like cherry wood, oak, pine, whatever it might be, measure out, lathe, table saw, bore out holes, proper measurements, 23 millimeter for a 22 millimeter RDA, 26 millimeter for a 25 millimeter, 31 millimeter for a 30 millimeter RDA, whatever it might be, and they just kind of shrine it up, if you will, kind of make it look like an ode to the vape gods. That is a very expensive way to go, and especially when all the sweat equity is done, all the boring out of the wood's done, cutting it, buying it, and then some even go as far as Thompson's water seal with some type of stain, waxy looking stain to make it look real plush and real, very nice. I'm all for that. If that's your option and that's what you're running with or want to run with, go to Home Depot right now, man. Buy a block of wood. I'm all for it. Vape on. But if you can't afford that and you don't want the sweat equity and you just want something dirt cheap, instant, like a good cup of instant coffee, just put the powder in there, hot water, stir. That's the type of option I'm recommending right now, is almost an instant coffee type of an option. Just go to your hardware store, go to your automotive store, buy a handful of lug nuts, some excess for stuff that might come into your possession down the road. But buy them, and then, as you saw in the play-by-play, some of those slides, you see how I do it. Copy it. Put your balanced stuff right up on there. It'll look cool in whatever area of your home that you're storing your vape stuff in. It will look classy. I think it looks classy, even though it's raw industrial look. I think raw industrial is a good classy look, at least I think so. But it'll protect everything from falling over. You won't be balancing on 510 threads. You won't be balancing on 510 center pins. You won't take the chance of a tank already in use knocking over, falling over, and the chance of the juice finding a leak spot somewhere in there where it's at its weakest link and oozing on out somehow and making a very tacky, sticky, drippy mess. It keeps anything that you're using right now that's in motion, in action, keeps that perfect. You never have to worry about leakage or anything like that. and it keeps your glass protected. It keeps the polish, the fit and finish on your devices protected. Just an all-around good, cheap way of going about protecting your tanks, RDA'S and RTA'S. And on that note, I'll stop rambling on the mighty wonders of the precious lug nut. Give it some thought. What's 55 cents versus like my TFV4 Mini, which $44 option, a vape tank, $44 vape tank. Like my Aspire V2, $39.99 retail I paid quite some time ago. Even my cloned Atlantis V2 that I got online, $16.99. I mean, you're hearing those kind of numbers, 44, 39, 16, but what's 55 cents to protect something that's worth $44? And there's other more expensive vape gear out there that probably would be good to require good balancing and protection of the 510s. That's all. I mean, you got, like my TFV4, you got a $44 tank. What's it to you? What's it to you to protect it? To make sure that, number one, glass doesn't break, it maintains fit and finish, but more importantly, ultra importantly, its 510 threads and its 510 center pin are protected, and they can maintain as close to the virginity that it came with out of the box. Maintaining that for the life of the device almost ensures, 99.9% ensures, that device will always work. So there we go. The powers and the wonders of the mighty lug nut. So maybe for you, maybe it's time to nut up. It's time to get a little nuts. And again, not the type to go run down the street naked and go, ah! No, just balance your stuff, man. Balance your stuff. Protect it. And on that note, I'll have another vape or two. Nice end of the day, vapes. But you take good care. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Aaron. I was your host. And it was a pleasure bringing this to you. However you're doing it, keep doing it as far as storage and balancing and protecting. If you found an option that works for you, don't take my option. You already got one that works. But if you're a new entry-level person acquiring gear and you're wondering, how do I properly protect all this stuff? I just gave you an option to do so. You can take it or leave it. I'm just here providing a suggestion. And on that note, I think I'll vape you on out of here. Thank you again for tuning in. Hope you're having a good day or night whenever you choose to watch this video. And I will see you on the next edition of the Vapors Den. You take them on easy. Bye-bye.